Kyle Klingman with FloWrestling. Welcome to the 14th edition of Women's Wrestling Weekly, the show, joined as always by Scott Beck. Scott, we will get this off the agenda. Women's freestyle wrestling. Some people still don't know that. See it on social media, post the XMP Mercy clip. They're acting as though that she should have gotten back points and why didn't she get swipes? I still don't understand why people haven't figured out it's women's freestyle wrestling in college. People say they want to support it. They love women's wrestling. Get invested in it. Make sure you know what's going on before you act like you know what's going on.
Yeah, I just think the base case is people are used to folk style, and the ones that aren't really aware and they don't know yet. I mean, it's they kind of equate it like men in college are folk style, so they assume that the women, obviously the ones that know it do. At some point, hopefully, we're going to solve this problem by switching all wrestling for women into folk style. I mean, into freestyle, which I think will happen at some point. States are starting to do it.
It is comical though when you do see people chiming in there and there's an obvious step out and say, "Oh, that why would they give a point there? That wasn't stalling." And then they go on and then someone has to check them and say, "How do you win 6-6? You can't do that. That's impossible." Then they have to explain it. So it's a learning curve right now.
It is, and people are certain of everything. The ones that tend to know nothing, so it's just human nature, I guess.
Let's go on that, the freestyle folk style. And one of the topics we can cover on this is just the health. A lot of girls are getting kind of the upper clavicle and they get a lot of shoulder injuries. I wonder if that would go away if you did switch to freestyle because you're not going to be going for as many bar arms, tilts, half Nelsons when you're defending a gut wrench or a leg lace. You're going to go back to your feet eventually. I wonder if that would solve that problem.
It might a little, and the female body is different than the male body. I'm not trying to get controversial or anything, but women tend to have a lot of their strength in their hips, and men tend to have a lot of. I mean, these are tendencies. A lot of the strength in their shoulders. So, if doing some of those folk style moves, the bar arms and things of that nature that put pressure on the shoulder joints, I think the women tend to get more injured there. If they get extended on leg shots, you tend to see more shoulder injuries. So, I mean, that's possible. I mean, maybe we're making just a broad, baseless generalization, but I don't really think so. I think they are different, anatomically.
Just had an interesting conversation with Rayana Sagoon from Grand Valley State. She had some comments just about how you make weight as a female. And I don't think a lot of people probably factor that in any of their equations and how you make weight, that's different for women than men.
Women, obviously, we have like our menstrual cycle. I would say that actually it plays a big role in wrestling just because it does happen every month. And having to deal with the weight cuts and even the workouts, it's just like it's hard on a woman's body sometimes. And I think that can like mentally be draining, like if you're having just like a difficult week with that. You retain more water weight. You feel a lot more like fatigued each day. It's harder to have more energy, like, and try to like get yourself to perform at 100% in a practice if your body is not really like allowing you to feel 100%. And then with cutting weight, you have to stay hydrated, but it's difficult when you are retaining that water.
Number one, just naturally, the women tend to have a higher body fat mass, so they tend to hold on to fat a little bit more. If you look at like the equivalent, percentage of body fat, women naturally need to be higher health wise. So it's a little tougher to lose. Men tend to sweat a little more. I mean, my daughter's a really good sweater and doesn't have a problem cutting water weight, but a lot of women do. So I just think it's a different process. And then, you know, um, women, menstruate monthly, which you tend to retain, water weight, and you have to, that changes their body too as well every month. So, there are differences. Like we can pretend it's all equal, but the reality is biologically, men and women are different.
We had a big weekend, Grandview Open, so many results. We saw three Nigerians win the Grandview Open. One other one got third place. This is kind of blowing up NAIA wrestling right now. They are just coming on strong here late in the season. When you look at the results, just as it relates to the Nigerians, we knew about two from William Penn last time we had the show. Now we're adding another one into the mix. Xochimilco Pettis makes her coming out at the college level. She's 24 years old. We've known about her for years and her success. U.S. Open champion, been to Final X. She reaches the finals, runs into a buzzsaw from Wayland Baptist, and she falls 6-3 in the finals. What did you make of that result in particular at 131?
I only got to see like the last minute of the match, which had a good scramble. XMP was in on a good, really nice leg attack and looked like she was going to finish. She kind of got chin whipped and stepped over. Um, I'm assuming that I'm going to mispronounce the name, so forgive me. Mercia Odecore is the sister, I'm assuming, of the 57 kilo that had battles, the Olympian from Nigeria, because they have the same last name and their body type look, very tall. That's a very difficult person to wrestle. XMP is very explosive, good finisher, and it was a good scramble, and she got the takedown after being in trouble. So again, we talked about it last week when we said we had a high school wrestler, in Fernandez, Tana Fernandez, wrestling a foreigner from Nigeria, and this time we get a late addition to college wrestling in XMP, wrestling another Nigerian in the finals of an open tournament. So really exciting. I absolutely love it. And, you and I have talked now. There's, literally four very good Nigerians now wrestling in NAIA among, we'll jump right in, from Japan. Yu Sakamoto, who's the U23 world champ, is wrestling now at Northern Michigan. Couple of Hungarians wrestling at, one at Gannon in the NCAA, one at Life. A French woman wrestling for William Penn. So this is really amazing. And the landscape just gets more and more interesting. It's good to see.
Not that they listened to our show last week, but I know we said that the formula to win might be to go outside the United States. Clearly, some programs are looking into that and seeking out some of the best female wrestlers in the world and bringing them to the program. William Penn is serious. I think they are serious about making a run this year. As we said, they have the two Olympians. They have Caitlin Davis. Mia Palumbo, maybe not. Doesn't sound like she's going to be, but if they get her in the mix, she's certainly probably the favorite at 110 pounds. So William Penn making a run. Again, life is so deep right now, top to bottom. They're 12 deep. It's going to be tough to do, but they really do have the firepower right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, it's a great, concept. On the men's side, Iowa State has a bunch of Cubans, on the team, and some lighter weights. There's a lot of coaches from Cuba that are helping out with Iowa State. I know Etchemendia was at Ohio State, now is at Ohio State. So this is great when you say, okay, we have great athletes in the U.S., but let's bring these foreigners in, and it just gets more workout partners, just makes the brackets tougher. And it seems to me, with the growth of women's wrestling, and you and I talk about how there's gaps in some of the lineups with some forfeits. So what a better way to fill the gap than to bring some foreign talent in? And, it's good culturally as well. There's exchange, on both sides. So I love it.
And we got to see some great matchups at the Grandview Open because of that. The Nigerians, as we said, 3 titles, and then the other one got third from Dickinson State. So pretty cool to see such a great turnout for that country. And we had kind of a de facto Iowa wrestle off. We saw it at 103, we saw it at 110. We kind of saw it at 207 pounds where maybe they didn't send their top wrestler there, but they had the remaining ones maybe for that second spot for the University of Iowa. We'll start with 103 with Rhiannon Murphy winning over Sterling Diaz. I think that will be a weight where Iowa still sends 2 to the national tournament. For those who don't know, you can send 15 to regionals, potentially qualify 15. That's going to be an issue for a North Central, for an Iowa, maybe King, McKendree, and maybe a Colorado Mesa somewhere in there. But Iowa's certainly one of those. So I think they're going to send both Rhiannon Murphy and Sterling Diaz. 110 is where it gets interesting. You definitely have a situation there where Ava Bayless, the spot is hers. She's definitely going at 110 pounds. She's earned it throughout the course of the season. So kudos to her for being that person at 110 for Iowa. Now you have a situation between Valerie Solorio and Emily Gonzalez. Gonzalez won it at 101 last year, moved up this year. You have Val Solorio winning 8-0 at Grandview, lost to Emily Gonzalez earlier in the year 6-2. So how do you settle that? Just going back to the Gable principles, it's always coach's choice. I don't know if they'll have a wrestle off. I don't know how they handle that at the University of Iowa, but they certainly do have 3 All-American caliber wrestlers at 110. How do you pick the 2 at that weight class?
Well, let me ask you, Kyle, because I'm not 100% sure of the rule. Are you allowed to have 3 at a weight, or does it only have to be 2?
I think
It is
you have to have
maximum
2.
2.
Yep, max
Okay,
of
you
2.
cannot, even if it's your 15. So, it's tough. I mean, wrestle-offs aren't the end-all either, because you could have 2 people go head-to-head, but one performs better in competition. I think at the end of the day, you might do a wrestle-off. You might say, we're judging you on how you performed the last couple of weeks, whatever, and then you give the option perhaps to the person that isn't picked to challenge up a weight, or maybe you have a slot, if maybe they have a slot 117. I don't, I mean, they're stacked everywhere, but 117 seems to me like perhaps, they could move somebody up to there. But it's tough. These are very tough decisions. At the end of the day, if you do the best in the tournaments and you win the wrestle-offs, no, you can't complain, right? So when you have 3, it's tricky, and you get sometimes the transitive property scenario where A beats B, B beats C, C beats A. But in this case, you have a clear number 1, and you also have a national champ, but she's up a weight. So this is going to be tricky. Good problems, though.
Good problems, and you look at this. What do you think the chances are? Macy Kelty, who's been at 145, she wrestles at the Olympic trials at 62 kilograms, which is 136 and a half. What do you think the chances are they move her down to 138 and keep Reese Laramendi at 145, who's the returning champ? Do you think that's a possibility? Because I do.
I think it's possible, but why wouldn't Macy make Reese go down to 138? I don't. It's a hard cut for Macy when she's making 62 kilos. I mean, she does it, but I know it's hard. I'm not really familiar, with exactly what how much weight Reese Laramendi cuts, but Macy clearly is the multiple world medalist, senior world medalist, and one head to head. I would think it's her option. Now, you could see scenario. I'll tell you, I just very funny story. Guy from my high school when I grew up, guy named Steve Hunt, wrestled at Iowa. He was wrestling all year. He was undefeated, ranked number 1 in the country. A guy who was ranked first in the country, the weight below, got injured, couldn't make the weight. Gable had a wrestle off. Steve Hunt beat the guy in the wrestle off, and that guy couldn't go down. So Hunt said, you know what, I'll go down. So he dropped down, didn't place in the Nationals, and he never All-American. And the other guy wanted up a weight. So, I think you need to do sometimes, if you're the one that wins a wrestle-off as the number 1, you got to do what's best for yourself, I think.
What do we make of Yu Sakamoto, though, at 117 pounds? She's a U23 world champion. Saw how good she looked in the U23 world finals. Got beat against Nohea Moniz of Sacred Heart, got pinned in that match. Is she a factor here? Brianna Gonzalez is the clear favorite. Sydney Petzinger's look good. Claire Bowie also, she's in the mix, so don't want to miss out on her. So Claire Bowie, Sydney Petzinger, and Brianna Gonzalez. Can Yu Sakamoto throw a wrench in this and win the national tournament?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, I saw that match, the match she lost, and she didn't look great in that match at all. I saw her wrestle in the U23 Worlds. She looked great. It could be an adjustment. She could, who knows, time differences, food differences, adjusting. She got pinned, but she didn't get caught. There was a very close match, a back and forth, low scoring match, and they got turned in a bar arm, I believe, at the end. And as time because that turn gave up the win, and then she got stuck. But I would not count her out. You're U23 world champ, I think junior world champ as well. She'll be competitive. I think she'll be ready. And there could just be some adjustments, could be an off day, but she'll be in the mix for sure.
So Nenea Estrella got 5th place at Grandview. So that leads me to think that maybe they're exploring that option as Macy Kelty going down to 138. I'm only saying it's probably 20%. I don't think it's highly likely, but
well, then does Estrella go down to 131?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what the certifications
I
are.
can't imagine they, just throw Estrella out of the lineup, and 131 is not their strongest weight at all. So I don't think you take Estrella out of the lineup or Laramendi. if one of them moves down, I think Australia's going to move down too. Then is my guess. I don't know her situation with the weight cut either, but it's crazy. They're just so deep. I don't know where these people go. You know.
Yeah, you really don't. And then which 15 do you choose? I would say 180's one. Naomi Simon has looked good all season, along with Kylie Welker, who's going to be there. I think they'll send two
I
at
think they
12,
sent two there for
yeah,
sure,
two at
right?
207, two at 180, two at 103, two at 110, and probably two at 145 if you keep Reese and Macy there. So there's your 15.
That's what I would do. Unless you bump Macy or Larramendi down, and if Australia can't go down, then you have two at 138. But I mean, the twos we're mentioning in all these weights will probably at least 3 out of 5 of them, if not 4 to 5, will be top two or contending for it seriously. So it's pretty deep. But that said, I would just add, as deep as Iowa is and as good as they are, other than the world-beating Murderers Row, some of the athletes were tested. Larramendi had a couple of close matches, so it's not like everybody else is just prancing through the tournament unchallenged.
And that's what makes it interesting. We'll do a blow by blow here on NCAA versus NAIA, but in what other sport does the NAIA compete toe to toe with the NCAA like women's wrestling? Because they are right there when you look at some of the athletes and the caliber. The NAIA is making a statement that we are here and we can compete with the NCAA if we need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way the sport has developed because the NCAA is the last to come to the party, right? So, yeah, and you have an Iowa. I mean, if you took Iowa out, NAIA would dominate the NCAA at the moment, until you perhaps get the Lehighs, or whoever else, is going to join next. But just because you put the initials NCAA doesn't, mean the athletes are better. And, we developed this WCWA. You had a lot of NAIA teams. And now it seems to me what the real difference at the moment is, for the most part, the athletes that have joined, from these foreign countries, other than, the Gannon athlete from Hungary, everybody else, and Yu Sakamoto's NCAA as well, but everybody else is NAIA. So, you know, that's a good outlet to make them very competitive. And yeah, over time, at a horizon, the NCAA will or should start to distance themselves, but I think that's years away.
Let's play a quick game here. Let's just see where it goes when we do a pick 'em at every weight. NAIA versus NCAA. 145, 160, 180. It's off the board. It's going to be the NCAA with Kilty, Blades, and Welker. Don't even know if there's any arguments there. 207, Scott, I'd say is even right now. JC Feller has been beat by the NAIA at this point. So I probably slight edge at this point to the NAI at some level, but I don't know. There's probably an even weight at 207.
Yeah, I think even a toss up to NAIA slight advantages, but I think that's a toss up if they wrestle. It's all hypothetical, obviously, but yeah.
Sure. Rhiann Murphy. Providence has a tough wrestler in Erin Hikiji. 110, I think you have to give to the NCAA. You have Sage Mortimer, you have returning champ Ava Bayless. Those two seem to have separated themselves a little bit from the pack. And they have Falcons 2 right now, and Stefana Jelasic, who was down at 101 last year, moving up to 110 this year. Solid wrestlers, but probably give the edge to the NCAA on that.
I would have to. Bayless has looked very good. And, we think of Mortimer. She's, a competitor and very solid. So I'd be very surprised if the NCAA did not win that weight.
And we got to mention one of our favorites, Samara Chavez, too, at 110. So
absolutely, yeah.
she definitely.
Actually, she's on. She'll win, but, Mortimer will have something to say about it. So will Bayless. But, Chavez is a big time wrestler, when she's on.
117, 124, 131, you probably have to go with the NAIA at this point. Christina Ogunsanya coming in for the NAIA with William Penn. I have to say she probably beats Brianna Gonzalez at this point, but Gonzalez is tough. Certainly wouldn't pick against either of them, but if I had to pick at this point, I'll go with the Olympian.
So would I. She's looked very good, and she's a very good wrestler, and has a lot of experience. So yeah, I would definitely go with Ogunsanya.
Here's where it gets interesting. 124, Cristel Rodriguez, maybe Katie Gomez for the NAIA. Amani Jones has separated herself at 124. Both world medalists, or all three are age level world medalists. Tough pick there, Scott. Who would you go with?
The more I watch Amani Jones wrestle, the better I think she is. At first I thought she was okay. She's a competitor. She's scrappy. She wins different type of matches, finds ways to win. So I that's just a really that's a really tough one because Rodriguez, a world champion, she looked great too. I think it'd be a toss up. I think I put those two at the moment until I see her up at this weight wrestling more. I've rethunk the Katie Gonzalez. I think it's a toss up between Jones and Rodriguez, but I want to see all those matches.
Yeah,
I'd love to put them in a ring and see them round robin. That would be really good.
That's one we need to see. 131. I think you have to go with after what we saw at Grandview. You have to go with the NAIA. Mercy XMP against Sterner, Janiak, Scott Nicky. I think at this point you have a couple quality there. You have to go with a U.S. Open champ, XMP, right now, probably the second best.
Yeah, Moreno is only a 3-time NAIA champ going for 4 and pretty much dominated everybody. The only time I've really ever seen her lose is like in a senior level competition, U.S. Open, I think. And then she got injured, I believe. But I think there's levels to this game, as we always talk about, and Odekore and XMP are a level above. I mean, Janiak, multiple age group world medalists, but right now there's a lot of senior experience between the Nigerian and Mota Pettis, so I would expect one of those two if they banged it out. Now we go with the NAI there.
And then 138, from what I've seen of Kolawali at this point, she's at a different level than the rest of the crew. Claire DeCunio, Katie Lang on the NCAA side, they're good, but when you're an Olympian, you have those credentials. You're a U23 world bronze medalist. You took Macy Kilty to the wire. Got to go with NAI on this one.
Yeah, I would think so. Katie Lang always impresses me. She's scrappy, but I just think at the higher level, Kolawali's more experienced and has, proved herself. And she's very explosive. Like to see her get in a little bit better shape. I think we'd just take her to the next level, to be honest with you. But yeah, I would definitely lean with her.
And guess who was at Grandview Open? I was surprised that she was there, and it was Kayla Miracle. She was helping coach the Valiant College prep team. Some of the high schoolers were there. It was great to see her there. She is coming back. So we were uncertain if the two-time Olympian, two-time world silver medalist, one of the country's best that we have produced, would be coming back. She's going to be at the U.S. Open. And she had some interesting things to say about just how she makes a living and how she is able to bring in income. It's been a topic that we've talked about, but it was good to hear Kayla Miracle talk about some of the struggles she has just to make it.
We need to find more people that, love the sport and want to continue to give back to the sport. And we have some very generous people around, and we just need to have them keep giving to help grow the sport. Because it is very difficult to be a full-time athlete and not have that job security. Because if you lose one tournament, your paycheck could be cut in half, right? And your lifestyle changes, or you lose your insurance. And that's things that most people don't think about when they're watching wrestling. But this is our livelihood. We wrestle to survive in a crazy thing. As much as it's not life and death, if you win or lose, sometimes it is, because you have to pay your bills, right? So yeah, but a lot of great people within the sport, and so thankful for them.
Yeah, it's hard. And one day we'll have to do a deep dive about what the women have to do and what they get paid kind of compared to the men, and how much harder it is. It's hard for any wrestler to make a living and keep doing this. The women, it's harder. But I know Kayla's in the room where my daughter trains at Valiant, and she coaches the ladies. They have very good room of men. Kayla does a great job. It seemed like she wasn't going to wrestle. I know she's kind of got the itch. Mikhail's been rolling around with her. And, she said she's, not done yet. So that's really good to see. She's exceptionally good. I know, she didn't get what she wanted in the Olympics. She's never looked better. She's beaten everybody. She had a tough draw in a brutal bracket. There were 8, 10 solid, accoladed, badasses in that bracket, and she lost, on criteria, wrestled a good match, and then got eliminated, when the Ukrainian, took out Timbakova. Kolodenko took out Timbakova in the next match. It's just, brutal. Where you are in the draw matters a lot. And in that weight, there was no good draw. There was no easy draw. So, hopefully she'll stay back and then get what she goes for. When you're 2-time world silver medalist, multiple age group world medalist, it's either she's got to, in her mind, it's Olympic medal or, world gold medal. That's, the goal is, it's not showing up, and not competing well. So you set your standards high. And if you're not the type of person that's not, that's satisfied with just making the Olympic team and not medaling after being a 2-time world silver medalist, you're not the type of person that has her accolades. She's a very competitive person.
That sets up what's going to happen for the next quad. She said she doesn't know if she's going to go to LA 2028. She's just going to take it one competition at a time, which I think is the smart move. But as we get into LA 2028, Zagreb Open is coming up. You can't overstate what this does because it is setting up. The Olympics comes quicker than you think, and I'm interested in these Zagreb Open results. You have a few things in play right now. The things that struck me was that Kennedy Blades at 68 kilos. It's plus 2 kilos, but 68 kilos down from 76. And then you also have Kylie Walker at 72. So that's plus 2. What are the things that stand out to you about this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's the first one, so it always, sets a tone. And then, Albania's right after. But, I was looking at Blades, and she looked a little trimmer than me. And then evidently she said she's underweight, at 76. So she was lighter, and, I think she can make this weight. She looks really good to me. It also, she's a teammate with Welker, so that's good that they can separate a little bit and not be banging it out against each other. It's hard to do college and, these ranking series, but it'll be good to see her. And she, as I said, she looked really good. And I think, listen, on one hand, it all happens quickly when you talk about like the quad and it goes by. But, sometimes you can't, you can only handle and focus on so much. So you can't set the goals. I mean, you could have the bigger goal. Hey, I'm Kayla Miracle. I want to get through the quad and win my Olympic medal. But on the other hand, it's like, if you're unsure, you didn't know what you were going to do, hey, let's just say I want to get back into it. I want to train. I want to see how I do. And we'll see if I want the next year or the next quad. But don't make it too big and it seems overwhelming because it is a monumental commitment. But, ideally, if you decide to do it, you're enjoying the process and liking it. And, she can change her mind. She may go back to it and say, you know what? I'm not into it right now. Or, I'm going to take the next year off and then see. You see it all the time where people take a year off and come back because they miss it or they just feel they didn't get what they wanted. But on the other hand, I don't think you need to you don't owe anybody anything. You owe yourself. That's it. So I think it's best not to lay out too much or say too much.
I agree with that. And as it just pertains to this year and what we have coming up for the World Championships, there's 10 weights. We will have to shrink it down to 6 for the 2028 Olympics. But the possibility of what we have just at 3 weights, if you're able to split up Kennedy Blades, Amit Elor, Kylie Welker, potentially Elena McCoyed, if you're able to split those up into 3 different weight classes, that's a great start for the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. With just tremendous depth in those upper weights, and then below that you have, Kilty Miracle, I don't know what Sarah's doing or not, if she's going to wrestle or not. Yeah, I'm not sure what Helen's doing, Jakara's doing. I don't know, but we have some solid wrestlers, but we're slowly going into transitioning of the changing of the guard. The athletes you mentioned to start, we're all young. And it's the next kind of crop. And then some of those seniors, some will, the experienced ones that have been around, some will continue to compete, maybe for another year or two and don't make the whole quad. Maybe some hang around, but, either some of them will start to get beat and stop, or, as people catch them, Father Time is undefeated. So at some point, the guard does change. In the case of these upper weights, we just had a group of tremendous accoladed athletes and, very good experienced wrestlers.
Jakara Winchester entered at 55 kilograms. It's a +2, so it'd be 57. What do you think of that?
I don't know what to think. You never know what weight she's going to go, and it doesn't really matter. I believe, though, for this tournament, I've been told that once you're on the sheet, you can't just go up a weight if you don't make the weight. So she said she's going 55 +2, then I guess she'll go 55 +2. I don't think you can go up if you don't make it. So we'll see. With her, as she said to you in a famous interview.
No, I can never say, honestly. I was like, don't trust me. I try. Like, I try to make different. It's never set in stone. I'm not, a lot of wrestlers like to be like, this is my weight class. Like, I'll claim it. I'll stick there the whole, 4 years. No, I take everything day by day.
She doesn't even know where she's going. So I don't think in her mind, she knows exactly what she's going to do. And maybe not even at this tournament, or certainly not for the year or the quad. I think she'll just, see what happens, or maybe somebody will beat her at some point.
Will you be up in the middle of the night for Zagreb?
100%. Absolutely.